You are sitting in a quiet room, nothing is wrong, the door is closed, the lights are on, and yet, somewhere in the back of your mind, something is watching you. You cannot explain it, you cannot see it, but the feeling is real and it is old, far older than you. Right now, at this exact moment, your brain is running a threat detection system that was forged over 2 million years of predator pressure. And it has never been updated. That feeling in the dark, that prickling on the back of your neck when you are alone, that is not anxiety. That is ancient intelligence. And the real reason it exists is far stranger than you think. Here is what almost no one tells you about the human brain. It is not designed to keep you happy. It is not designed to help you sleep well, build a career, or feel at peace in a quiet room. It is designed to keep you alive long enough to reproduce. That is it. Everything else is a side effect. For most of human history, the greatest threat to your survival was not disease or starvation. It was being eaten alive. Paleontologist Robert Sussman spent decades studying the relationship between early primates and predators. What he found flipped the standard story of human evolution upside down. For millions of years, our ancestors were not the hunters, they were the hunted. Sussman and his colleague Donna Hart laid out this evidence in their landmark work, and the conclusion was blunt. Early humans were prey, regularly, systematically. Eagle talons found in primate bones, leopard teeth marks on hominin skulls, cave deposits full of our ancestors alongside the bones of large cats. Your brain grew up in a world where something was always trying to kill it. Think about what that means for a moment. You are the descendant of every single human who survived that world. The ones who froze when the grass moved. The ones who felt the prickling on their neck and ran. The ones who, in the absence of any visible threat, stayed alert just in case. The ones who did not feel that fear, who relaxed too soon, who trusted the silence a little too much. They were removed from the gene pool in the most direct way imaginable. What you inherited is not a flaw. It is a trophy. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux spent years mapping what happens inside the brain when it detects danger. The system he identified is called the amygdala, a small almond-shaped cluster of neurons buried deep in the center of your brain. And what Ledoux discovered about it changed how we understand fear entirely. The amygdala does not wait for your conscious mind to decide something is dangerous. It fires first. It bypasses logic completely. Before you have processed what you are seeing, before you have formed a single coherent thought about whether the threat is real, your amygdala has already activated your body. Heart rate up, pupils dilated, muscles tensed, cortisol flooding your system. Ledoux called this the low road, a fast, dirty, imprecise signal that trades accuracy for speed. Because in the ancient world, being wrong about a threat cost you nothing. A false alarm meant a wasted sprint through the forest. Being right and slow to respond meant you never got to be wrong again. Your body is still running that calculation every single day. That is why you jump at a shadow. That is why a sound in the next room at 3 a.m. feels like a held breath. That is why you glance toward a doorway when you sense movement at the edge of your vision. The amygdala does not distinguish between a leopard in the dark and a coat rack in the corner. It flags the shape, fires the signal, and leaves the rest to you. But there is a layer to this that goes even deeper. Anthropologist Lynn Isbell has proposed what she calls the snake detection theory. It is one of the most fascinating and unsettling ideas in all of evolutionary biology. Isbell argues that the visual systems of primates, including humans, were specifically shaped by the presence of snakes. That our ability to detect fine detail, to spot camouflaged objects against complex backgrounds, to identify a curved shape half hidden in leaves, evolved partly because snakes were a primary predator of our primate ancestors for over 100 million years. 100 million years. The snake was hunting your ancestors before your ancestors were even primates. And when Isbell's team ran controlled experiments, the results were striking. Humans detect images of snakes faster than images of other threatening objects, faster than spiders, faster than angry human faces. The primate visual cortex has a population of neurons that respond specifically and rapidly to snake-like shapes. You are not afraid of snakes because you learned to be. You are afraid of snakes because that fear helped build your eyes. Now, step back and look at the picture this paints. For millions of years, your ancestors lived inside a system of constant threat. Not constant actual danger, but constant potential danger. The feeling of being watched, the possibility of something moving in the shadows, the low hum of uncertainty that never fully went away, because in the real ancient world, it never fully could. And so your brain learned to treat uncertainty itself as a form of danger. This is what psychologists call negativity bias, and it is one of the most well-documented features of the human mind. We are wired to pay more attention to threats than to rewards. We remember bad experiences more vividly than good ones. We scan for what is wrong before we register what is right. The brain devotes significantly more neural real estate to processing negative stimuli than positive stimuli. Because in the ancestral environment, missing a reward was unfortunate. Missing a threat was fatal. Here is what this means for the life you are actually living. You evolved to survive a world that no longer exists. The predators are gone. The silence in your apartment is not hiding a leopard. The shape in the corner is not a snake. But your threat detection system does not know this. It has received no update. It is operating on 2 million-year-old firmware, scanning your perfectly safe modern life for dangers that have not been relevant since the Pleistocene. That low-level anxiety you feel for no reason, your brain cannot find a predator, so it finds something else. The overdue email, the unanswered text, the uncertainty about the future. The amygdala does not care what the threat is. It just needs something to point at. That is not weakness. That is precision engineering running in the wrong century. And here is the strangest part of all. You cannot turn it off. Not entirely. Because the system that is making you anxious about things that do not matter is the same system that kept your entire lineage alive long enough to produce you. If you could simply switch it off, your ancestors would have been eaten. And you would not be here to read this. There are practices, of course, that quiet the system. Controlled breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system and signals safety to the amygdala. Slow, deliberate movement in unfamiliar environments reduces the low road's hair trigger sensitivity. Understanding the system, really understanding it, creates a layer of distance between the signal and your response. Neuroscientists call this reappraisal, and it works, not by silencing the ancient circuitry, but by layering something new on top of it. You can learn to hear the alarm and not obey it, but you cannot make it stop ringing. And perhaps that is the point. Perhaps the hum of vigilance, the prickling at the edge of awareness, the sense that something is watching, is not a malfunction. Perhaps it is the cost of being the kind of animal that survived long enough to wonder why it feels this way. 2 million years of predator pressure did not produce a relaxed creature. It produced you, scanning the horizon, checking the corners, alive. So tonight, when the room goes quiet and the lights go low, and something in the back of your mind insists on staying awake a little longer, remember this. You are not anxious. You are not broken. You are simply an ancient animal, doing exactly what it was built to do, in a world that moved on without telling your brain. The predators are gone. The system remains. And somewhere deep in the circuitry of the most complex object in the known universe, something is still watching the grass.